What's up, everybody? Welcome to In Love with Horror. I'm AJ.
And I'm Christy.
And in today's video, y'all, we're going to be ranking all the films in the Conjuring Universe. So in anticipation for The Nun 2, my wife and I decided to rewatch all films in the Conjuring Universe and then rank them for y'all. So there's 8 total films. And yes, we did include The Curse of La Llorona because, I mean, you see it in the film. It is part of the Conjuring universe. So we included that too. So there's 8 films in total, and we're going to rank all of them for y'all today. Now, the way that we ranked these films is we rewatch all of them, and then Chrissy and I gave each film a rating. And then I took those ratings and I averaged them out. And that's how I built like the ranked list for In Love with Horror. So just give you a little context of how we broke everything down. So coming in dead last, number 8. We got the most boring chapter in the Conjuring universe, and that's The Nun. So The Nun is supposed to be an origin story for Valak, the demon nun. But I mean, man, the movie just gets so like bogged down and lost in, I don't even know. Like, and before we even started this video, I know you said, babe, like, I don't even remember what it's even about. You know what I'm saying? Because it's supposed to be an origin story, but it's like the strangest origin story because you get a tiny glimpse of how Valak came to be within, I don't know, our realm. I don't even know how to describe that, Earth. And then, how she gets out and outside of the church you see in the trailers. But I mean, this movie, for it to be an order, like it was so disappointing, and it didn't do Valak any justice at all. You don't even see a lot of Valak in this film. That was one of my biggest gripes with this movie. Is I'm like, man, and it's funny because I remember the trailers for this film. They had some sort of tagline about it being, either darkest chapter, or, the darkest chapter is born, or something like that. And I feel like barely anything even happens in this movie. Would you agree with that?
I agree, actually. Yeah. Not a lot was going on.
Yeah, the plot is just like it's just bad. I can't even describe it any other way. It's super boring. It's got bad pacing. The performances are a little rough, and then to have the key villain just not really like have a real like presence. And what I mean by that is like actually like having real like tension and like buildup of suspense moments. It was like it almost feels like they didn't really know what to do. So they're like, okay, let's just take it back in the day and just throw the demon nun in a, I don't even know what it's called for, like the nun, the nun abbey. I don't even know what that will be called.
Yeah, it was an abbey.
Yeah, just throw that in there. I think the movie doesn't even give you an explanation of why Valak is appearing as a nun. I thought we would get that in this film of well, why does Valak come up as a nun? I guess it's assumed that because it was summoned in this abbey. I mean, I don't know. It doesn't explain that type of stuff. You know what I'm saying?
But yeah, I agree with what you said about the performances, especially like, well, no, almost all of them except for Frenchie, the guy who kind of like, leads them to the abbey.
Yep.
Everyone else, I was just like, what are y'all doing? Like,
yeah,
there were a lot of parts, and I was like, why they're not even acting scared?
Yeah,
it's just like a day at the park. They're at the zoo or something, and these people are zoo animals. I don't know. It just, it wasn't very like I wasn't scared because they weren't acting scared. So I was just like, okay, this is pretty lame. That the priest, oh my gosh, look, he had like this permanent like scowl on his face like the whole time.
Yep.
And it was really weird for me that he didn't believe what he was seeing, which is weird because he's a priest.
Right.
And I was like, well, obviously he should believe in the supernatural. I don't know. I kind of like what you were saying. Like, it just seems like they just threw these characters together and just was like, okay, well, let's put Valak in here and we'll call it the Nun.
It's like, man, we need to make a nun movie.
Yeah.
Just make an origin movie, but well, what's the origin? So I don't know. Just throw her in an abbey where nuns are. I don't know. Okay, throw them in there. Hire some actors and let's shoot this thing real quick because just.
Well, they did kind of say like, well, they didn't really explain fully why she was appearing as a nun, but they were just like, oh well, she's using like it's like perversion of to God or whatever. But nothing else was really like, explained or whatever. I don't know. It was really weird. It was just a really weird movie. Oh, how do we get rid of it? They used the weirdest thing to do that. I don't know. It just seemed very thrown together.
Yeah. The conclusion and how they beat Valak is just kind of ridiculous.
Yeah, it is. Because I didn't understand just how it took this one nun, Sister Irene, and well, I can't even count the priest because that whole last part, he wasn't even a part of that. So yeah, this one sister to try to defeat Valak when they had this whole slew of nuns. I don't know. It just didn't make sense.
And speaking of Sister Irene, her involvement, I won't get into the details, but early on in the movie, she gets involved. She hasn't even taken her vows yet. And she gets involved with the case. A nun has committed suicide. The Vatican sends this priest and tells them to go specifically find Sister Irene and take them there. Because she's had visions before. And what the visions are used for in the film was like this tiny part, and it was just so dumb. It was just like laughable how dumb of a concept it was. I'm just sitting there like, man, like y'all just didn't do Valak no justice. Like for Valak to have the level of impact and presence in The Conjuring 2 to then in the solo debut film just basically do nothing and be boring, a snore fest, and not really learn much about the villain like you would expect to some degree. It was just super disappointing and underwhelming.
I agree with you. And it's really sad that, we're gearing up for Nun 2. And this is ranked to the very last for us on the list. It's just really sad.
With that being said, that just means that it ain't gonna be hard to beat this. I mean, as long as it ain't boring, like that alone, and has like a story that makes sense, that alone will help it out. But yeah, y'all, that's our dead last number 8 place is The Nun. In the number 7 spot, we got The Curse of La Llorona, and this one is an odd one because it's kind of like a spinoff for the Conjuring universe, because it has just a single character that links it between the Conjuring universe, and we'll dive into that later on. But let's go ahead and talk about what the movie, like a general synopsis.
Okay, yeah. So the movie is basically about this woman who was cursed for an incident that she did, and her spirit, I guess, continues to try to fulfill this curse continually. And in this particular time that we are in, there's her name, what is it? She's a
social caseworker.
Social worker, right? Her and her kids come into contact with another woman who's experiencing this curse. And then, so we're witnessing the follow through of this curse with her and her kids. So that's basically what it's about.
Yeah. And I mean, honestly, this movie, at least in my opinion, it's better than The Nun, but it ain't that much better.
No, it's not.
This movie is, I feel like it's kind of almost another throwaway film. Well, and for one, it's disappointing because like, I think it's always interesting when you have a film that isn't just based in, Catholicism or something like that. Like it's actually from a different culture and has a different urban legend or folk tale or something. And to kind of just make this throwaway film about it is super disappointing. Some of the things I didn't like were like I thought the performances were kind of like phoned in or just like awkward. One of the big ones being the priest, and I think we talked about this.
For sure, yeah, he was terrible.
It was so weird how the priest was very monotone, and he always was like the explainer for everything for the audience, for the viewer.
Yeah.
Like there's a part where he blesses a pool of holy water and banishes the spirit in this particular sequence of the film. And the child says,
what did you do?
Your pool is now filled with holy water. La Llorona had no choice but to leave.
I don't know.
Yeah,
it's just
I wrote down, he talks like he's acting, like he's reading a script. That's how he talks.
Okay, that's a good way to describe it.
Yeah, I was just like, why is he talking like that? Like he's reading, like someone holding up cue cards and he's like reading them or something. I was just like, what is going on?
yeah. So the performances were awkward. All the scares, had La Llorona just with this kind of like almost like those, like I hate to call them cheap, but like the YouTube scare videos where it just has that like photoshopped After Effects general scare face. Yeah. Like all her faces are the same in the movie, like the scare faces. And it's just a lot of like, oh, there's La Llorona's face, boom. You know what I'm saying? Like, and that's the scare, and it's just not even scary. Now, I mentioned that, it's just a singular character that links this movie to the Conjuring universe. And that is the priest from the first Annabelle. That is what links the two movies together, because there's a point in the film where our main character, and I can't even recall her name. Do you remember her name?
I don't know. But they talk for like 2 seconds. I was like, how does this count?
Yeah. Like the mom goes and talks to the priest of the church that was from Annabelle 1, and he specifically references Annabelle 1 and even shows a flashback clip.
I feel as though that was pointless.
Oh, yeah. I'm sure that it almost could have been like an afterthought, right? Like they were already making this movie and was like, oh, let's link it to the Conjuring universe. And they just threw that part in there. Because I don't think the priest and the shaman character ever share the screen at the same time.
No, they don't. He just tells him about him and tells him to go in.
Yeah, so very, very well could have been like an afterthought of like, yo, let's link this to the Conjuring universe by putting this priest in there. Like, oh man, that's a good idea, because then it's going to help, push tickets, because it's like this is part of the whole universe.
Is that what it was? Because
yeah, I mean that's what I'm guessing. I really don't even know.
Well, I believe that actually, because it didn't make any sense. Like, it doesn't even, most of the films I say within the Conjuring universe feel like they belong. Mm-hmm. This one definitely doesn't feel that way.
Yep.
And aside from that one scene where he's talking about that one incident, that's it. That's the only thing that points that direction at all.
Yep. Yeah, but this movie's just it's not very scary. It's not as boring as The Nun, but it's just very like cheesy, and you already know how it's gonna go down.
A lot of dumb decisions.
Yeah, a lot of dumb decisions. A lot of like being in denial when like you're literally looking at what's going on. That was
so ridiculous.
A lot of annoying parts like that. Like you literally see what's happening.
Not only that, like you have photo evidence, you have visual evidence, and you still are blind. Like I don't get that at all.
Come on now. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, y'all, that's our number 7 spot, The Curse of La Llorona. Pretty rough, and honestly, not too much better than The Nun. Coming in at the number 6 spot, we got Annabelle Comes Home. Now, this is the 3rd film in the Annabelle franchise, and this film is about the Warrens' daughter, Judy, and essentially, I don't know where the Warrens go. I don't think it ever says where they go.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah, so the Warrens they leave to go do something. And Judy's got a babysitter who babysits overnight, and the babysitter's friend also comes over. And the friend ends up doing some dumb shit, and it unleashes all the spirits from the what do you call that room? The artifact room. And then this becomes a carnival, like Guess Who game of all the spirits in the artifact room. and they got to survive the night essentially, and that is pretty much the movie. And this movie, like, it's got some elements of it that I liked. Like, it was cool to see like some of the different cases that the Warrens have worked on, and you get to see some of the spirits that we've never seen in the franchise. But the only thing I don't like is because it's like it's a film of like almost like a montage of all this different types of spirits. You don't really get to spend time with them or learn about them outside of like quick, like, oh yeah, this is such and such. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And you know, this movie at least had like a couple of unique scare moments that were actually pretty good. Even ones that involve Annabelle and that demon. I don't know what that demon's name is, but you know, that demon that's associated with that doll. Also, actually had some creative little moments, some cool special effects with the spirits. But ultimately, for me, this movie just felt it's kind of like goofy and cheesy. It's got some heartfelt moments with Judy because I will say that's one of the aspects that I did like is that you kind of get some insight into their daughter's life and how she's treated because of how her parents are in.
Yeah.
Like this, they're infamous for kind of being, you know, what the public perceives as kooks, right? Like, like, oh, the ghost investigators and exorcists. Yeah. So it was cool to get like that kind of insight. But ultimately, this movie also suffers from a lot of stupid decisions where I'm just like, this is the dumbest decision making I think I've ever seen in a movie ever.
Yeah.
And even the reasoning for like, you know, it being justifiable is just too stupid.
The thing about Judy, I like what you were saying about how we got to see a little bit more of what she dealt with and all that kind of stuff. But I feel like they used her in this movie to be like the narrator a lot of times. You know, like she was explaining a lot of stuff. And I guess I kind of understand that because she would know about it. But at the same time, a lot of the ways that they were creating these moments for her to narrate things, I don't know. To me, it didn't feel like it fit very well. And then also this movie to me had a lot of like things they kind of just like made up, or there were some contradictions to the previous movies. I know we're not really talking about spoilers, but I feel like this one is not really that big of a spoiler. But like, for example, like,
it's not too bad. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah. So like, all the previous movies, they always talked about how these demons or whatever you have to give them permission to take your soul. But in this movie, there's a clear scene where the demon is trying to take Julie's soul. And I'm like, where'd that come from? It doesn't make sense. But yeah, like there's things in here that just don't really make sense to me.
I was actually thinking of another part too. That's referenced in the very beginning of the film, where it's literally like in the first, I don't even know what, 10 minutes, where they mentioned that the Annabelle doll is a beacon for other spirits, and I was like, well, where did that come from? Because that wasn't mentioned
they just threw that
in any
there.
of the other films. Like, y'all just making shit up now to try to make movies around it.
For real.
Yeah, so yeah, I did do a lot of like making up to service the plot. But ultimately, like I said, there's some heartfelt moments because, you know, Patrick Wilson and Vera Farmiga, they're actually in the film for a few minutes, like towards the beginning and the end. So we do get some heartfelt moments where they do some, you know, sweet stuff for Judy and some of the friends. So that was always cool because you know, their chemistry and their performances are always incredible in all the films that they're in. They're like the best parts of those films. But ultimately, like, this is just, to me, just kind of like another kind of like lackluster, just like popcorn horror movie, if I can even call it that, because it didn't have the same, the plot wasn't strong. Like the reason why things were happening just wasn't strong. There wasn't that, like, you know, typical build up and escalation of, you know, activity and infestation. It was just kind of like a carnival game, and that's just kind of how it felt to me. Coming in the number 5 spot, we got The Conjuring: The Devil Made Me Do It.
Yeah, so in this movie, we have, you know, the Warrens again, and then we have another main character named Arnie who commits a murder, and the Warrens are tasked to try to help defend him, right? To prove that he was possessed during this murder. And so they're trying to find evidence of that during the movie. And that's basically what it's about.
Yeah, exactly. And because I don't know if this was the first ever case. I want to say that it was, because it's based off a true story where he was actually trying to prove his innocence in court by way of demonic possession.
I think what's his name? Ed said that there was one other case, but that was in another country or something.
Oh,
like
that's right.
UK,
Yep. He says another country in the movie.
But this was the first one in the US.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And so throughout, they're sent on this adventure quest to find evidence, and they start to unravel the mystery of potentially a cult or a witch that's causing all this stuff to go down. Mm-hmm. And this was the third film in the mainline The Conjuring movies.
Mm-hmm.
And it is by far the weakest.
This one was boring.
Yeah, I think you thought it was more boring than I thought it was. It definitely is boring in comparison to the other Conjuring movies.
It was, well, yeah, because when I watched these and the Conjuring ones in order. I think we all did that. We both watched it that way. Yeah. So by the time I got to this, I was like, wow, this is, because it's like, it's very bad.
Different. It's very different because the first two movies, it's the same formula of going to this house and going through like the steps of infestation, discovery, exorcism. But this is like, almost like a mystery movie, and it takes them to different locations, and it's almost like a war and adventure movie or something. But
all over the place.
I applaud them for trying to do something different, because I'm sure they were thinking, all right, for the third movie, we can't just do another house and go through the same steps. So we got to try something different.
That's
so
true.
I applaud them for trying to do something different. Ultimately it didn't work out super good. But I mean, there are some redeemable factors in this. Like we said before, you got Patrick Wilson and Vera Farmiga and Lorraine Warren.
I absolutely loved in this movie. Because they focus a lot on like how they got to where they are, like their love, their relationship, and I was just like, oh, I love it so much.
Yeah, it was cool, and then there was a lot of like funny moments along with that. Like there was a particular moment in the film because Ed is taking some medication for his heart, and there's this particular moment where he tells Lorraine,
"I left you at home."
Yeah, well, I wouldn't do that anymore if I were you.
Yeah, and it was just like, it's stuff like that. It's like the small details of the chemistry of that relationship is just.
It seems so real, so authentic.
Super authentic. Yeah, it's super authentic, and that just makes you care about the characters even more. So you're actually interested in what they're doing, and want them to make it out. You're invested in the Warrens. So they are by far the best part of this movie because the main storyline and what's actually going on is very weak. Now, there is another dope part of this film, and that's John Noble.
I'm Ed Warren. This is my wife, Lorraine.
I have chicken shit on my hands.
I mean, that dude is first of all, he's a legend, right? Anyway, but I feel like he always brings like a certain level of like, I hate to use the word gravitas, but you know what I'm saying? Like he brings like a certain just like dope energy. Like he just makes everything sound cool because of his voice. You know what I'm saying?
His voice is epic.
Yeah, his voice is epic. He talking about the occult.
I forgot he was even in this movie.
I did too.
I saw him. I was like, oh, I forgot he was in this.
Yeah, because we watched it the first time this came out, because this came out during the pandemic on HBO Max. I think we watched that one time. We ain't never watched it again.
No.
So I completely forgot. I was like, oh shoot, John Noble's in this movie. I forgot about that. But yeah, so it was cool having his presence in the film. I was sitting there wondering like, oh, how did they get him in this movie?
Yeah.
But yeah, like I said, ultimately, this film, they tried something different and it just didn't work out. And sometimes that happens.
Well, when I was watching it, I was like, because I do my notes as I watch a movie. Yeah. And in this one, I was like, did James Wan even direct this? Because up until this point, he had done the earlier ones, right? And I looked it up And I was like, oh, of course he didn't, because now they'll understand why this movie sucks so bad.
Yep.
But yeah, it was just really funny because I feel like the energy and the vibe just completely changed with this one. And I was like, let me see who directed this movie.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're right. Yep. You can tell. You can definitely feel it. Now, another thing I liked in this film is they a part of the story was Lorraine's powers, so it's kind of cool to like see her powers like really take a main focus sometimes, and to really see like what she's capable of. Like there were some cool moments with that. I was like, damn, this is actually kind of cool. Yeah. Almost borderline fantastical in certain ways, but it was still cool, and I did like that element of the film. Now, there are, to me, some confusing things with the plot that involve this witch, and I won't get into the details of it, but just exactly what's going on is kind of confusing in my opinion. Maybe some might feel different. I don't know if you thought, if you agree with me. I know you saw my notes about what the witch is doing with the rituals and what she's controlling. I thought some of those elements were a little confusing.
Okay, yeah. I can see how those things.
Yeah.
Honestly, I just didn't even think about it because I was just so bored.
All right, you just checked out, which is funny because y'all, when we were rewatching these, she was like, "Oh yeah, this is the most boring one by far," and I agree, it's the most boring Conjuring one. But then after we got to the Nun, I'm like, "Oh yeah, no, the Nun is by far the most boring one."
Yeah.
But yeah, y'all. So that is the Conjuring Devil Made Me Do It, taking up the number 5 spot. In the number 4 spot, we got the first Annabelle movie, and at least in my opinion, this is kind of where we're seeing like the movies start to get a little bit better. Because I know for me personally, I actually do like the first Annabelle. I know, baby, for you think it's just kind of okay. But I actually do like this film. Now, the first Annabelle is. And I think this movie came out, I want to say right after The Conjuring, because I believe this movie came out in, 2014? I'm going to double check my time. Yes, it came out in 2014. So it was the second movie that came out in this entire Conjuring universe. So basically with this film, it was kind of giving us the backstory to the segment in the first Conjuring film where you see, I believe they were nurses. They were roommates, and one of their moms had bought them this Annabelle doll, and they were having all these, paranormal experiences in their house. So we're getting the kind of the backstory to, like, at least in this film, like where the doll came from, and then seeing what happened to the family that owned the doll before the nurses got it. And so we get kind of details on, the demon that's associated with the doll, and things just go crazy. Now, for me, one of the things I really like about this film is like it's an actual fucking demon that you're encountering in this film, because I think the Annabelle demon is the only like actual like
one that
looking,
we see,
actual looking demon like throughout the entire Conjuring universe. So I think, for at least for me personally, that alone adds like an extra scare level.
Valerie looks scary when she's yelling, but I get what you're saying. Like she has a different form.
I mean, because she just looks like it's
just like the teeth and stuff.
Yeah, but it's still got that like humanoid look.
Yeah.
Like,
I'm with you.
I don't know the name of the demon from this Annabelle movie, but that motherfucker looks scary.
They've said the name.
Like, okay, let me ask you this, right? If one of these, if Valak in nun form or this demon thing appeared in the room,
I don't.
Which one is scarier?
They both scary to me, but
which one
I get
worse?
what you're saying. Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? That's what I'm talking about.
Creepy thing, yeah.
Yeah. But I like a lot of the scare sequences in this film. There is some great like creative like camera work, especially with the nighttime scene with the neighbor. Like that was super cool how they kind of like sequenced that together. And like, I don't know, I like the flow of this film. Now it's not perfect. There's some dumb stuff that happens in this film.
There's some dumb stuff.
There are some dumb things that happen, but at least for me, the like scary moments are like memorable. Like there's certain elements in this film, at least for me, that like I won't, that even having not seen the movie in a while since this rewatch that we just did, I still remembered like what occurred, like the storage room area and the stairwell. Like even though I hadn't seen the movie in a few years, I still remember those scenes because to me they are super creepy, especially dealing with the like a real looking demon.
I disagree. There was only one scene in this movie that got me, and that was the elevator. Only because it was like you're expecting something to happen,
right, yeah.
and nothing happens for a long time. And then you're just stressed because you're like, dang, why she can't get off this daggone elevator?
Yeah.
But other than that, like even the stairwell scene, I was just like, oh, whatever.
I'm surprised.
But I know you are.
Did you watch it during the daytime?
It doesn't matter when I watched it.
Oh, it does
even
matter.
The first time I watched it, no, it doesn't. And it wasn't daytime. It was dusk. Okay. So it was a little darkness.
Right.
And my room was dark. I tell you that because I didn't have no lights on.
Yeah.
But anyways, just like how you feel about the dumbness of Annabelle Comes Home and how things happen in that movie, I feel about this movie because there's a very unrealistic thing that occurs, and it's just like, this doesn't make sense to me, and because of that, I don't like this movie. I mean, I don't like it to the point where I don't feel like way you feel about this movie.
Oh, right,
like, it's still a decent movie overall,
right? Yeah, in comparison,
but there's one thing is just like it nags me, and so because of that, I couldn't put this one as high,
yeah,
or whatever.
Now, another gripe that I know you and I both have for this film is a certain character towards the end of the film does a very heroic thing. And I think for both you and I, our biggest gripe is like it doesn't feel satisfying because we don't get enough time to actually like develop that type of relationship to where something heroic actually makes sense. And so that is another like big issue I know you and I both have for this film.
Yeah,
but
absolutely agree.
Yeah, and like you said earlier, I think ultimately for this movie, like it's got some some bumps and bruises on it, but in comparison to the other films, and this is why we ranked it at number 4, it overall is just a better package because it's got like a better kind of like story, a better paced story. The characters are kind of okay, but the sequences, the tension, all those things, I think just create, I don't know, a formula that I felt like worked pretty good in comparison to the other movies. But yeah, that's the first Annabelle, y'all. That is our number 4 of the Conjuring universe. Now in the number 3 spot, we got The Conjuring 2.
And in The Conjuring 2, we meet another family, and they are being haunted by, or seems to be being haunted by an old man that died in their house. And the church got wind of what was going on because the daughter, one of the main daughters in the family, was being affected. And so they sent the Warrens in to see if what was happening was actually happening or if it was like a hoax. And I really like this movie. I thought that this one was very strong. The plot was very strong. I thought the performances were really good.
Yep.
Obviously, we love the Warrens. The family was good as well. I thought there was some really good like scenes in here, like really good scares. The camera work was really, really good. But yeah, overall, I really like this one. Who about you, babe?
Yeah, I agree. I would say like the top 3 films that we have ranked for the Conjuring universe are all like excellent films. And The Conjuring 2, I think, is really good. Now, it's not as good as the first film because I feel like it's not as tight as the first film.
Yeah, I agree. I said the same. Well, I was like, I feel like it lacked a little bit of depth for me.
Yeah.
I didn't have that same connection like with the family in this one that I did with the first one.
Yep.
But I still think it was still good.
Yeah, it was still effective because there's a couple things I didn't like. Like they did have some cheap jump scares in this film, and there's like a lot of CGI work in this film too, like with the Crooked Man. And I think there was
yeah, you did say that.
Yeah, and I can't recall if there's any other CGI, but at least the Crooked Man was in there. Like when it comes to that first film, like it feels super grounded, right? It feels super real. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So for The Conjuring 2, when you start adding in things like the Crooked Man, I don't know, it starts to lose a little bit of that
more
that
fantasy,
realism.
a little bit. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's more fantastical, and I don't know, like it just doesn't feel as good. But that's not to say that the movie wasn't still incredibly well done. I really, like you said, the performances, obviously the Warren's relationships, the Warren's relationship. I think, correct me if I'm wrong. It's this film where he sings the song on the guitar, right?
He does.
Yeah.
Which is funny,
super cool
because was it Comes Home?
Yes, he's the birthday party.
I don't know which one it was, but he was acting like he couldn't sing, and I was like, "Why he acting like he can't sing when he clearly can sing?"
Yep. Yep.
Go ahead, though.
Yeah, I think I know what you're trying to say. Yeah, because it should have taken place after the Conjuring 2. So yeah, he should have been. He should have been able to pulled out the song he good at. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. Yeah. Okay, well, go ahead.
But yeah, so like we get sequences like that, and just like man, the Warrens, like Patrick and Vera, like they kill it. And I was telling you this, like after watching this movie, I was like, man, like Vera Farmiga's scream, like her scream is excellent. Well, she'd be
go ahead and do it, because you do a good one. Like, let me hear what you do it.
I love you, Lorraine.
No!
So good.
Like there's multiple parts where she be screaming his name, and like
she does.
Like her scream is just like so good. Like she was meant to play like in some horror movies for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, like there's a lot of great scare sequences. Obviously, a lot of creative scare sequences, man. Like James Wan, like because he did direct the first 2 Conjurings, and he's just such a beast at crafting like very unique sequences. It's usually stuff that you've just never even seen, or just never seen it play out that way, like it does in The Conjuring 2. That like incredible camera work too. So it's in The Conjuring 1. It's in this one too. It's a lot of cool scenes with great camera work, stuff that makes you feel weird and uncomfortable. And I did put this in my notes. I want to bring this up, that I made a comment that the nun in this movie is creepier than the nun in The Nun.
Yeah, but is that because by that time we've already seen it, know what it looks like, kind of got an idea for it? Because in this movie, right? This is the first time we've seen the nun.
Yeah,
right?
This is the first appearance.
Well, we've seen it, yeah, right. So is that why you think?
Yeah, it might be. I don't know. Yep. Oh, you know what? I just realized I forgot to mention something when we talk about the nun. I'm just gonna mention it here since we're talking about the nun. But like in the Nun movie, whenever it was like showing her, especially in the beginning, and they had that weird like chanting sound, like yeah. That junk's actually hard.
Yeah,
I hope they have
really
that in the Nun too.
I think they probably will.
Yeah,
it's super creepy. I don't like that at all.
But yeah, and another thing I like about The Conjuring 2, because it's also with The Conjuring 1 as well. Like it don't take no time for shit to start happening. I feel like you get like instant. You get past the initial like
let's meet the family.
They have like an opener. Well, the movie starts with like an opener, right? Like something.
Oh, right, another.
At least in this movie,
something.
It actually relates to the main story in some way.
What was the opening case in this movie? Because I forgot.
That was the one, Amityville. That was the Amityville one.
Oh, okay, yeah. Oh, yeah.
She was like walking to the house.
She was on the seance.
That was super cool. When she's like,
that
was embodying the person shooting.
Yeah,
I like how they did that. But then that's when she first, has a vision about Ed's death. But that actually linked to the main throughput of the story. And then after the opener, like you said, we get the introduction to that family. But after that, it's like it's like boom, like
Yeah.
that shit starts, and that poor little girl, like I feel like her like in The Conjuring 1, it was pretty slow. Like they started at like 1 and then slowly went up. She started at like 5. And then, you know what I'm saying? And then boom, just like jumped up. Like
I felt so bad for her, man.
yeah,
I tell you.
Yeah, it was, but it was so many cool concepts in this film.
It was.
I feel like another thing that I feel like is to its detriment is that it is long. I think it's the longest. It's the longest movie in the entire Conjuring universe. It's the only film that's over 2 hours. Its runtime is 2 hours and 14 minutes, and I do feel like you kind of feel it because I feel like there's that point, and that like three quarters of the way through, you're like, yeah, like we kind of going this stretching out. You know what I'm saying? Like there's a little bit of a lull, but it's still an incredible film. Like
so, I think one thing that me and you both might have agreed on. I can't remember if you put this in your notes or not, but I didn't understand, or we didn't get an explanation of why this particular girl and this particular family were chosen, I guess. I don't know how else to word that. They don't really explain that. And then, I don't know. I just felt like if it was just because of the Valak thing, super weird that they would choose this family on the other side of the world.
Yeah.
I don't know. It just seemed really weird how that worked out.
Maybe we'll get some explanations.
How they connected that.
Maybe we'll get some explanations in The Nun too. I don't know. Maybe. But no, I agree. Like, yeah, it didn't really add up, but I guess it all worked out.
Yeah.
And another thing I want to mention too, because I talked about like the CGI and stuff like that. I did kind of low key wonder if like the studio had an extra hand in the film, and like maybe like wanted him to add extra stuff in there, like
maybe so,
add some extraness in there because there's like cheap jump scare and then like CGI, and I'm just like, I don't know, maybe the studio was like, hey, you need to add these particular things, so you had to add them. I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's our third film. That's The Conjuring 2. Excellent film. And then we'll jump into the last two films, which I think for both of us are like really good. So I'm excited. We only got 2 left, and so everyone knows what they are. Which one's going to be first? Which one's going to be second? I mean, you never know, but I feel like y'all know. But let's jump into number 2. Coming in at number 2, y'all, we got Annabelle Creation. And now, even though I don't think it's the best movie in the franchise, it is my favorite though, because I think this movie is fire. But so Annabelle Creation is about the creation of the toy doll itself, and then how the demon became to be attached to it. And the movie plays out basically. We have a family that's on, like a middle of nowhere house. It's a dad and a mom and a little girl. And in the very beginning of the film, they end up losing their daughter. And then 12 years later, they decide, they want to get this big ass house. They want to like put it to good use, and they invite an orphanage. I forgot how many little girls there are, but there's
I think there's 6.
Like around 6 or so girls from this orphanage that they invite to come live inside the house, just to give them the opportunity to have a better life. And they also have a nun that stays with them as well. And then everything plays out from there. They end up encountering the doll, the demon, and things just go crazy. And I really like this movie a lot. Like there's a lot of things I like about this movie. From the fact that of course we're getting the creepy ass demon again, and he's equally creepy in this film. There's some like great camera work in this, some great like tension building. Like there's some like just creepy sequences, y'all. And then I'm sure we'll dive into the details, but like the audio, the score, there's a lot of like audio scares, like stomping and running and just noises in general. And then the score of the film is just like, it just gets under your skin, and it just like adds that extra layer to the scare moments. And then one thing I did want to mention, I think, I talked to you about this. I think this is the only film where the demon actually like kills people like brutally. I don't think there's any other film in the franchise where the demon actually like fucks people up like bad. There's some
that mom got jacked.
Yes, in this film, there's two characters. God, fuck it, you know what? It doesn't even matter. Like y'all probably seen it anyway. The parents get brutally destroyed in this film. Bad. Like I was like, damn, and I was like, I think this is the only movie where like the demon went ham. And that just to me that just added, it just increased the fear factor. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I thought that was a cool piece to it too. And obviously they got the nun kind of name drop in this, the connection to Romania, with the sister having a picture that has the nun in the background. And then this movie utilizes the dark very well. Like there's a lot of moments where you can't like really see super good what's there, which is creepy too.
You know, I like, what's his name that directed this? I can't remember.
David F. Sandberg.
Yes, David Sandberg. I like David Sandberg, and I think he does a good job playing with the dark, like you said. And plus, he's done that in Lights Out, so he already know how to do this.
You know
so
how
I
to
think
do
he
it.
does.
He
does a good job with that for sure.
On a side note, I really hope that he comes back to horror because, you know, he just did the second Shazam movie. And I think he mentioned that he wants to come back to horror. So, like, please let his next film be a horror movie. Like, forget all that superhero action stuff. Like, come back to your bread and butter where you are a master at and like give us some fire. You know?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I really liked how he played with the darkness. It was a lot of scenes. Well, obviously because a lot of the action happened at night.
Yeah.
Like some of my favorite scenes were nighttime scenes. Like we both like the stair one where she's on the chair.
That junk's scary.
And I really like the one where she's playing with the ball in the hallway.
Oh yeah, that was creepy.
That was so good. But y'all gotta watch it if you haven't watched it, which I don't understand why you wouldn't have. But
yeah, if you're watching this video, you probably already seen it. But
for me, that scene is just really, really good because the ball is attached to the gun that she's shooting it out of, and so at one point she shoots it out and it catches it, and then it like goes up in the air to see how tall. Well, obviously we see how tall it is when it interacts with Mr. Mullins, but.
Yeah,
these kids haven't seen that, so you see how big this thing really gets, and it's just like, dang, girl.
Yep. And then you hear the footsteps coming.
Yeah,
so good. Like my heart, you make your heart beat.
The tension in this movie is like, super good.
Now I remember I told you this, babe, but I watched this film with headphones.
Yeah, you did.
Because I never really watched movies with headphones on, except for like maybe a handful of times, but. I remember I was watching someone's reaction to another horror movie, and they were like, "Oh man, like headphones is the best way to go." And so I put on headphones for this film.
Was it Skinamarink? Because everyone talks about wearing headphones with that movie.
Well, you know what? I saw Skinamarink in theaters, which I'm sure that's kind of equal to a headphone experience. But I'm sure with headphones in that movie would probably be crazy. But even with this movie, like it was crazy. You could hear everything. So you can hear the bumps and the creaks and stomps, and then the music, the violins and everything is going. And like you're just like, dang, like this junk is crazy. Now I know one thing we both talked about was, and you put it in your notes. You're talking about how hard-headed the kids are. They don't listen to nothing, and they being nosy, like going where they shouldn't go.
Don't listen to nothing. I'm like, why are these doing this, Lord?
Yeah.
I said it a couple times.
Yeah. And you know, we mentioned it for The Conjuring 2, having good kid performers, and I think the kid performers in this movie were also really good too.
Yeah, I thought they were.
Yep.
Even the ones that didn't have really big parts, I thought they did.
Yeah.
I can see if they were like, okay, you're the kid that does this. This is how your personality. Like even if that's all they had, it kind of like, what's that show that used to come on? Whose Line Is It Anyway? Where they like give you like, okay, this is what you have to act. This is the type of person you have to act like. Because a lot of those girls didn't have a lot of lines or a lot of screen time, but you could tell what kind of personalities they had.
Yeah, exactly.
Just from the way that they acted. So I thought even with the small parts they might have had, they still did a really good job.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Yeah, they killed it with this film. You know what? You know we fire? What if they made like a Nun 3 and like David Sandberg directed that or something? Like bring him back to the franchise. I'm sure he wants to do his own thing and do something.
Yeah, I'm sure he
original,
does. And he should do his own thing because, you know, even him doing this one, because I think we both learned this when we talked about these films before, but he didn't even want to do this because he doesn't like doing sequels.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So if he does come back, he'll probably do something that's completely separate.
Yeah. Yeah. But all right, y'all, that's number 2, Annabelle Creation. Now it's time for number 1. And number 1 is The Conjuring.
All right, yeah. So The Conjuring is about the Perrin family, and they just moved into this new house, and things started happening because, well, there's like some. It's hard to talk about this movie without giving away spoilers.
I think most people have seen it. Just roll with it. If you haven't seen it yet, just pause it and come back after you watched it.
Anyways, they're being plagued by this witch who used to live on the land that their house is on. And basically, the mom is slowly being possessed in order to kill her kids. Mm-hmm. And before all that happens, before it gets too deep, you know, they go to seek help. The mom goes to the Warrens and they come to the house and they absolutely can feel and see that they're actually being, you know, haunted. And so they help them try to get rid of the spirit.
Yep.
So that's what it's about. But this movie is so good. This is my favorite movie. So
good.
This is my number 1 favorite horror movie of all time. Well, not all time. Maybe 2. But it's still up there. It's very high. It's
up there. Yeah.
And definitely our favorite of the Conjuring Universe.
Yeah, this movie, it's almost like, honestly, the movie's almost perfect. Like the pacing is like, there's not a moment in this movie where it feels like it's a lull. Like it doesn't have, like I feel like every minute has a certain level of significance to it.
Yeah.
Even when it's not a scary moment, like every little moment feels so important. And the family's so relatable. They do such a good job of like making the family feel genuine and relatable in the beginning of the movie. So you care about, you know, what ends up happening to this family. There's some just insane scare sequences in this movie.
So good.
And that, you know, obviously the performances help elevate that because all the actors from the adults to the children, like they killed it in this movie.
Ugh, it's that smell again. Oh my God. It's standing right behind you.
This movie's it's a modern horror movie with like a classic horror movie feel because there's a lot of like handheld camera work feel to it. And it's got that look. And it looks like they even added some grain to it at certain times.
It does have that look.
Yeah. And so like it's
very
got
like
that,
the Poltergeist.
it's got that classic feel. And I think it's just why it's so good because it feels classic. It's relatable. It's grounded. I think this is the only film out of the whole franchise that's got like a very good and clear like plot. Like there's a full understanding of like what's going on, like the build up to like the ultimate like possession and stuff is like perfect. Like the progress of, you know, the you know, it like messing with them and feeding off their fear and stuff like that. And it's just crazy. Like
so good.
I
mean, there's barely, if there is, like maybe 1 or 2 jump scares in this movie, and it's still super scary. Like it could be completely silent, and something could happen, but it's not like in your face. It just is, right? And it's still scary. It's super creepy. I don't know. I personally have not run across many films like this, like where it's just scary as hell almost. And there's not loud music and loud like thuds and, you know, noises. It's just really, really scary, genuinely, because of the performances and because of the visuals, basically. I also really like how, we talked about the curse of La Llorona, and
Yep.
how, that priest was like telling you everything about the curse and da 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 da. But in this movie, like the history unravels naturally throughout the movie.
Yep,
There's
sure
no
does.
one person giving you a paragraph. Okay, well, this is what she did, and she was out here, she got hung, and da 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 da. It just progressively happens and is uncovered through the movie naturally.
Yeah.
And I really like that because a lot of movies nowadays, that's all they do. They like depend on one person to tell you everything. Like,
right.
The one girl in the Voyage of the Demeter.
Oh yeah, she was there to explain. She was the exposition for sure.
Right.
Yeah. Let me explain to you what's going on real quick.
Exactly. Yeah. Like I only have like we did like an outline. We watched our movies of things we liked and what we didn't like. I had like 2 ticks, and then those 2 things were like super minor things. Because everything else was just so good, and that was me kind of like nitpicking in the movie.
Mm-hmm. If I had to nitpick, I actually don't really like the Annabelle opening in this film, just because I just don't feel like it has anything to do. Like, there's no connection to the film outside of like, oh, here's a case that the Warrens worked. That's like, they're known for this doll in the case. That just felt kind of out of place to me. I don't like the fact that Bathsheba killed the dog like stupid fast. It was like the first night.
Poor dog. I was like, okay, first of all, if my dog is not coming in my house, I'm not going in my house because my dog obviously senses something that I don't.
Yep. Left it outside.
But yeah, poor little dog.
She didn't kill it on the like. I was like, how you got that much power off rip to kill the dog that fast? That make no sense.
That was sad. Poor little dog.
And then the last thing was like the very, very, very ending scene, and that was just because they had the toy, and they put it on they put it on the counter, and it was like spinning, and you're kind of waiting to see what it's going to do. And I was like, I didn't like that ending. Like, I was like, y'all could have finished on something like way cooler. Like even if it was just like Ed like taking notes and he closes the case file, like even that would have been better than me. But that's just me nitpicking, everything else is like pretty flawless, man. Like,
well, my nitpick would be my main one, I would say, is how how come she didn't really see what was happening to the mom before she did. I mean, obviously she was kind of slowly realizing that something was happening because of the stuff that she found out about the other neighboring families and the history and stuff like that. And then she had like bruises and she was tired and all these things that point to there's something happening, but she didn't really see it. And then she saw the spirit in her room and in the window, and I don't know, I just felt like I didn't understand why it took so long for her to realize there was something wrong with the mom.
Yeah, no, I see what you're saying.
That was my only qualm.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
But everything else was like on point.
Yeah, it was on point. And jumping back to the things that we like too, I did make a note of this, that this movie does a good job of like scaring you off beat. So like scaring you like when you think it's gonna happen, but then it waits a little bit and then it scares you, like stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like it's just good, man. Like this movie is just it's just like a masterpiece, y'all. Like, it's on both of our lists at, very near to the top is in terms of like greatest horror movies of all time.
Yeah. It's just really sad that the movies that came after it kind of slowly go down.
Yeah, it definitely does. It definitely does one of these right here. For sure. But you know what? Maybe The Nun 2 is going to turn it around. Maybe The Nun 2 will jump to the top of this list.
I just want to point out that The Nun 2 is being directed by the same man who directed The Devil Made Me Do It.
Yeah, well, you got to get people.
Did he direct The Nun 2?
Did he direct The Nun? Come on, y'all. No, he didn't. He didn't.
Okay.
Yeah, it looks like it was directed by Corin Hardy.
Okay.
So at least
that's good.
At
least they were like, okay,
good.
well, maybe we should call back somebody else. But why they call back Michael Chavez?
Well, fingers crossed.
I personally didn't like The Devil Made Me Do It. I was just telling you that was
not
so
the
boring.
worst. So hey, look, at least it ain't people who made The Nun. So I don't know.
I guess. So one of the writers for this film is Akilah Cooper. And Akilah wrote Megan and Malignant. And the other two writers, I forget their names, but the other two writers, they wrote The Autopsy of Jane Doe. The both of them did.
Okay.
So that Akilah being on this project is it's a good sign.
Yeah, no, that is a good sign. I thought the Malignant story was it was okay. But Autopsy of Jane Doe was good. What was the other film that you mentioned?
Megan.
Yeah, Megan was all right. Yeah, Megan was all right. Now I did see that there were The Nun 2 did have its first reactions come out. There's some Twitter posts about it
too, but
and
I haven't looked at them.
People were saying that it's actually not bad.
Okay.
They were at the very least saying that it's better than the first one. So I think that's already a W.
Okay, well the bar is set very low.
Yeah. So here's hoping that The Nun 2 will be good. Now once we do watch The Nun 2, y'all, we'll revisit this ranking, and then we'll let you know where we place The Nun 2 in this ranking list. Now to recap, to walk y'all back through our ranking of the Conjuring Universe. So in dead last, we got at the number 8 spot, The Nun. At the number 7 spot, we got The Curse of La Llorona. Now at the number 6 spot, we got Annabelle Comes Home. At the number 5 spot, we got The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It. At the number 4 spot, we got Annabelle. At the number 3 spot, we got The Conjuring 2. At the number 2 spot, we got Annabelle Creation. And at the number 1 spot, we got The Conjuring. And that, y'all, is the Conjuring Universe ranked by In Love with Horror. I thank y'all so much for tuning into this video. Make sure y'all like, comment, subscribe. We do movie reviews, news. We got our weekly podcast that drops every Saturday. So make sure you follow us and subscribe either on YouTube, Spotify, on Apple. Head over to TikTok. We do some dope TikToks over there. But yeah, follow us and subscribe on everything, y'all, because we got some more fire content coming for y'all. And let us know in the comments how y'all rank the Conjuring Universe, because y'all might rank it a little bit different than we do. Y'all might put something a little bit higher or something that's a little bit lower. Maybe you like my wife here, and The Devil Made Me Do It is just ultra boring. You might rank it a little bit lower. But yeah, hey, look, drop all that down in the comments. We love to discuss it with y'all. And until next time, we see you in the next one. Peace.